honored that I have been given the task of introducing these wonderful people. And this entire process of education that has been going on through this gaming convention is, it has been very, very overwhelming. We now realize that gaming is about this wonderful conglomeration of various disciplines of knowledge. And not only that, the people involved in it have diverse roles. It's really, really, really a very, very creative, complex process, as if these people are all neurons into this big brain, which is creating something that is absolutely of so much of value, and it's of another world, quite literally. So with these words, I welcome the speakers of today, because I gave that background because that is the theme of today's panel discussion, that is arts, science, and gaming. How these all, just conglomerate and synergize beautifully to create this wonderful creation. I begin with Mr. Yan Garin, who joins us from a very far off place. He is as Indian as he is French. Yan started working as a professor of motion graphics and 3D design, and has resonated with the teaching methodology of his institute. He took up the job of director of operations. You can find him striding across campus corridors, juggling between multiple admin tasks and conducting a few lectures, but never without his coffee mug. He is a communication liaison between the French and Indian campuses, bringing about a balance between the two. While in class, he teaches 3D design with ease and constantly updates his syllabus to keep up with the latest trends. According to him, problems are half solved if one learns to be a good listener. What a statement, sir. I now welcome Mr. Anukul Kukade, an innovative and accomplished creative leader and an industry expert in TV animation and game development, having 20 years of rich experience in all areas, from the creative to production and business development. His passion, knowledge, understanding, and development experience across long form TV series, animation, games, apps, absolutely insightful and astounding. He's extremely result-oriented, committed, realistic, prolific, and a hands-on leader. He has managed projects in various capacities, from specializing as a graphic artist, lighting lead, donning the hat of a producer, and also as a part of business development for a number of award-winning TV series, and worked with reputed companies like Tigar Hare Studios, USA, as their sales country head in India. A very warm welcome, sir, to both of you. And now the floor is open to both of you, sir.
Thank you very much, Maumita. Very happy to be here with you all. I'm actually not so far right now. I'm in Calcutta, and I'm seeing Techno India University just in front of me. So that's beautiful. Thanks a lot for the introduction. We are going to discuss today what is gaming and why there is this need of art and science in gaming. I would like to start talking about an association, which is the association between Techno India University and Ecole-Intuit-Lab that I represent. And we've decided to merge our skills and capacities here in Calcutta to launch programs, and one is gaming. And I think this talk represents really our association, because Techno India University is famous for his engineering and science skills and expertise given to students, while Ecole-Intuit-Lab is really much more into art and design. And I think that together symbolizes very well the opportunities that we give to students into gaming. So Anukul, thank you very much for coming today. I think
a pleasure.
You are the best as an expert in the gaming industry to discuss with me about this ambivalence between science and art. And my first question for you, given the fact that gaming is a perfect blend of science and art, we know that, but for a large audience, they might not really understand what is the art part and the science part into gaming. Can you give some concrete examples about this coexistence in gaming?
Right. So basically, I mean, with my experience in the industry and what I have played a role as an artist and turned a business guy, like, I have come across various different psychological ways or, the thought processes which are applied into the industry as such. Just to give you, art is a very straightforward formation that if we want to create games, we need to create artworks, we need to create character designs, we need to create level designs where people play. Like most of the attendees who are there, I'm sure there are students who are playing mobile games, PlayStation games, Xbox, and various different form of gamifications as well. What happens is, I mean, I'll give you one example which is very much tuned into my thought process, because my elder son is we're planning to teach him that way of functioning where humanities, he just finished his 10th and we're pushing him into the mass media side where psychology, like a human psychology, how it functions, and that plays and that subject itself is used in the industry of gaming to a very large extent. I mean, firstly, how do you interact? Like, what is a human behavior and how it translates into a game development process? So there are these psychologists who are sitting with the industry experts, like say, for example, Ubisoft as a company, and they are designing the cutting edge technology games, and they want to now connect with their audiences in a very large and immersive way of discussions. Like maybe they want to make the audiences feel how an actual human being might behave, like so that the real world scenarios are now translated into a game format, and that's where the psychology, human psychology, is being used, and that's the basic science which is being utilized in the industry as of now. Like so how the social context of the gameplay impacts on players' experiences, and probably more practical at practical levels. Maybe how game developers may utilize evidence of this effect to enhance the positive experiences derived from the activities. Like so this is how it really translates, like how a player connects with the audiences or connects with that game by itself. I mean, this will maybe form the basics of this entire subject, which will introduce key evidences, like say the psychological theory and the research which goes behind into this, and how they apply it into the game industry as such. Like in form of future game designs would be taking into consideration that a game designer would be actually not the designer who thinks it, but maybe the psychology department professor might be designing the game, and that's becoming a reality nowadays. Like how I mean, just a different experience which I'll tell you. Like we in our company, we've been designing one of these games or the gamification, I would say, for the US clientele, which are connected to the Navy or the US kind of projects, where they want to understand how a person behaves, or rather the ranking officers, like in a Navy kind of a category, how a officer's ranking is being what is the role behind that, how does he behave in an environment, and that is being taken into consideration as a gamification part. We design that, and there are psychologists, professors who are sitting there and analyzing the data. So we are there are, like say, analytic tools that we basically tend to set up at the back end. Students are called in to play that game. And now the professors, once they get the data, how the student behaved or the performed in that particular scenario which was being put up in front of him, they come up with some ideology that, okay, this person is suited for some category of ranking officer in the Navy. So, so there is a lot of science behind this entire thing. So data science is a huge thing nowadays in the gaming industry, like how it figures out, like, with both in indirect and direct experiences which are there, and the social processes which operate outside the gameplay will be considered eventually in the reference point from a psychological theory which goes in the gaming industry.
Okay, that's interesting. So when we are talking about science, it's not only hard science, but also all the sciences, everything that is measurable, basically that can be analyzed and applied for better experience. Tell me a bit, how do you link this user experience with what has to be done in terms of development, for example? What is the line between, how do you bridge these two departments?
So yeah, I mean, it's basically nothing else. The biggest thing what we tend to miss out is the communication part. Like, so there are different various departments that are being formed into making a game. I mean, it's not just like two people can make a game. Yes, there are casual games that can be made by one person as well, that for sure. But there are genres like where people then tend to develop more and more team building kind of an activity, and various departments join hands. The engineering department, the art department, the creative departments, the production departments, and various departments basically join hands, and then they collaborate towards a common goal. So there is an overview of a game, and every department has its own set of rules and theories that they have to follow. Rules rather have to be followed to make sure that that game, which is conceptualized at a level, will come together. So as I said, like there are multiple departments which will have to coordinate amongst themselves, and that's how the magic happens actually.
True. So that was for the soft science. About the hard science, for people who studied engineering, math, physics, all of that, can they find a role in the gaming industry?
Oh, hell yes. I mean, without those guys, I'm pretty sure gaming industry will not function. So all the engineering students, mostly whomsoever I have found out, or other who are working alongside with me, are from the engineering background. They are BTechs, MTechs, like, kind of engineering guys, having passion for the game industry as such. And that is where they deviate their thought processes from being a normal engineer who's basically, I mean, a simple example I'll give you. 1999, like, I probably third, fourth company, India Games, probably you guys must have heard about India Games, was one of the first, or one of the first companies in India to start up into games. And I was very much into the core member team back then. So there was this guy by the name Amol Samant, and he was the first guy in India to develop a carom game based on Java. Way back in 99, 2000. And that is the reason he got the job at India Games, through the CEO of the company. And his background, he was an engineer, but guess what? He was a civil engineer turned a game programmer.
That's fantastic.
So, math is definitely needed. I mean, the students who are engineering, I mean, the kind of questions my technical guys I mean, I'm not a technical engineer. I'm an artist. I'm a business guy, but I keep on hearing the interviews which go on, and the basic two questions which my developer asks: do you know what is a palindrome?
Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah. And how do you create an array? Like, these are those basic engineering theories that are being taken into consideration. And if the students hang on to these things over a period of time, and they understand the basics of it, they can go a long way in making into the gaming industry, because mathematics is needed, especially we call it the vectors, the trigonometries, the coordinate geometry, and definitely the physics side of it. So every thing which I like broken down has got its own merits and significance into the game industry. Like, you know, the game engines are built upon these theories.
Correct.
Unity
Correct.
game engine, Unreal game engine, you name it. You know, every game engine is built upon math and science evolved together. You know, so there are various departments. You use any software nowadays, like, you know, you use Max, Maya. They are at the back end. They are engineering stuff only. Like, if you have to open up Max and Maya, you need to know assembly language. Like, you know,
Correct.
so that's how the engineering is definitely needed into this industry.
So Anukul, for people who are not expert in game programming, for example, to give a concrete example, you were talking about Carom. Carom typically will use vectors and trigonometry to calculate the angle of the token hitting another, the force, the physics with which it will collide another token, etc. And the gravity obviously is also a part of it, because you give a force to a vector. So this is how it is applied to a game like Carom.
Exactly. You nailed it, yeah.
But now, for someone who did not study all of that, this very complex math formula, nowadays with Unity or Unreal, you can also make a game of Carom without knowing all of that.
Correct. Yeah, you can do that. As I said, like, if your basics are strong and you have the right aptitude to learn that thing, anybody can make a game. I mean, I can apply myself. It's just that, yeah, we are into our different worlds altogether, but one needs to apply. They can definitely make a game without making having to code for that matter. Like, you know, nowadays there are a lot of these game makers kind of things which are already available for very basic kind of a gamers or other those enthusiasts
Right.
who we can call it. Like, they want to just to start understanding the science and the art behind game development.
Correct.
So they can basically take on these kind of Unity kind of a platforms which have ready-made C# languages and codes which are readily available, and to evolve it more, if they have the passion to learn Unreal, Blueprint is the right way to go about it, rather than getting hands-on into C++. Blueprints are the easiest way, because Unreal has got a fantastic tool inside there, which is basically, you know, you just drag and drop, and you know, it's a node-based system that they have evolved, and that is really fantastic. So an artist also can work on a blueprint if the aptitude towards learning that the logic has to be right. Like, eventually the logic, if you understand that, okay, the ball has to go from point A to point B, how does it travel, how much fast it has to be traveled or traversed from point A to point B. I mean, an artist also can do that using blueprints and these kind of visual scripting tools which are nowadays available in the market.
Correct. What I observe with my students, most of them, they are not from a science background. Some are very clever in terms of observing reality. Very curious about, like, if you drop a ball, that it's not a linear path. They will observe that, okay, there is some acceleration and all, and it becomes a bit intuitive for them, and then they find a way to do it in the game engine. Is that something that you observe also amongst people making games?
I mean, see, as I said, it depends from person to person. But if you talk about myself, I mean, the old school thought process is nothing else but observe. The more you observe, the more you learn things. I mean, I'm on a street and I'm like sitting in my car, like, you know, waiting for my kids to get in the back seat, and I'm looking around, and that itself is giving me some kind of a knowledge, a constant evolve. That, okay, how does a human function? How does a dog walk? Like, you know, I mean, me being an artist, I understand that thought process, that, okay, some kind of a cushioning, bounce effects. But again, if an engineering guy has to learn through that, how much that dog walked from point A to point B, because in a gaming world, we don't usually tend to do walking animations from here to there. We basically make them walk from in the place, and then the developer takes on that animation, and then he designs the gameplay based on that walk animation.
Correct.
So the same science is applied to both the departments, like, be it art or be it engineering. It's all out there, like, and yeah, observation is the best thing. I have, as like, just to give you a fun example, for observation, I was a part of a company which probably everybody knows now, Maya Digital Studios, which is Cosmos Maya. So I was an artist back then in 2000. And back then, I used to compete for World Cyber Games in Malaysia and Singapore. Like, we used to play Quake 1 to
Yep.
Unreal Tournament kind of a thing. So I was with a team of 8 people, and the only thing what we used to do was observe things. So I used to know the maps. Like, say, I still remember that there are maps in Quake 3 Arena called DM17. Like, it's still memorized in my mind, because the observation is there. Like, in Quake, there is one level where John Carmack, the developer of that, has placed his photograph on a skull. Nobody has mentioned it ever, but there is a photograph. If you observe the levels, there is much to learn from it. I mean, just to learn things, you need to observe. Like, just to stand behind somebody and just learn it. And that's exactly what happened. Me being a pro gamer back then, joined Maya. There were these whole lot of bunch of my friends who were playing Quake, and I was a new into the company. What I did was, they were asking me join and play the game. I said, like, let me just observe you guys for a week. I observed them for a week, and the coming Monday, there was an annihilation. Like, they were like, what just struck us? Like, because that's just how I function as a person. So the more you observe how a person behaves, like, that's science. Like, humans have a tendency, like a right hand, left hand kind of a thought process. In a level, if you're walking, usually, or rather you're playing racing games also, the most turns, if you talk about, you usually tend to take a right turn.
Right.
Always. I mean, if you look at racing games also, the easier path, if you get a fork of a Y, you take the right approach, because the science behind that, because the angle of it basically gives you much more leverage, and the way you drive towards that right angle, it's much more faster than literally breaking that thing and going on a left side. So that observation is something that is very much key into the industry. So yeah, research, practice, and desire to learn is something that will make you big in the industry.
So we can say that people with a science background, they are going to apply what they've learned about physics, about math, etc., to get a result that exists in the reality. They are going to copy what is in the nature, basically. While artists, they are going to achieve the same kind of result with illusion. For example, an artist, he wants to show a depth, is going to use perspective, which is only illusion, nothing else. I think each of them can learn from each other if they are curious enough. The artist can use physics to get better results, but the developer, for example, can use illusion made by artists also to get a better result. And this is what they do nowadays in AAA games. You see there is a lot of illusion. I was discussing with a developer about how he used, for example, parallax effect in the reflection. So when you were moving, you could feel that there was something behind the glass, for example, where actually there is nothing. It's just a mapping. So it's pure illusion. So it's interesting how each group of profiles can really teach to the other just to get better results.
True. No, so basically, like, I mean, you said it right. Like, I'll give you an example. This is way back in 2002, where we were making a racing kind of a game, and the earlier stages of game engines were very primitive, and the tools which were not readily available. And so if people have played, like, say, bike racing games, like your Moto GP kind of a thing back then, or Moto Racer back then. So the results which we wanted, like, say, we wanted a speed which was coming upon. So how do you define speed when you know that the rasterized engines which were there were not capable of doing that kind of a function? So the artist, then the developers, basically the programmers, are talking it on a panel of discussions, and the artist comes up with an idea saying that, hey, you know what, what we'll do is, now there are walls around us, rather than having a brick texture which is absolutely a brick to brick, which is proper perspective, let's stretch the texture a little bit more. So rather than the brick becoming that size, they're stretched to that level. So when you're actually riding, you are actually feeling that you are, like, speeding across a particular level.
Correct. Yeah.
So
that's very interesting.
That these are very interesting things that people have done back then, just because the technology wasn't evolved to the thing what it is right now. Like, I mean, I tell all the students these days, everything for you guys is on a platter. Like, you just have to choose right, make the right decision. Because just to give an example, back then we were not party to all these technologies. We had to do the hard work in the hard way, like the simple phones. Like, I told my sons, like, showed the old phone which had those 10 dials, and they were like, how to dial it,
Right.
we used to memorize all the phone numbers back then. Like, nowadays, like, you have a goddamn Apple iPhones and everything, everything is stored like 120 GB, 256 GB of like storage space on a phone, where back then probably the kind of phones or the machines what I used to work upon, a 4 MB video memory, a 4 MB, like, everything has to be stored on top of that. And that's how people have evolved from there on. So as I said, like, I keep on saying to these kids, like, you need to take on these good, amazing tools, and then just, like, move on from there.
So there is one particular profession that really might interest our audience, and which is a perfect blend of these two words, is the technical artist. Technical artists, they do that. Basically, they know the limitation of real-time capacities of any device. They know what excites a particular audience in terms of visuals, and they have to find, using sometimes a kind of jugaad, if I can say, because you cannot do whatever. Unlike for cinema, for example, you can do whatever is available, because each frame can take days to be rendered. It's not a problem. While in video games, it has to be random in a snap. That's the big difference, we can say, and that's why games and cinema looks still different, right? So this technical artist is really there to balance both worlds, I would say. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, technical artists, you basically tend to evolve them from being an artist, and whomsoever is the shining armor into the company, they get more responsibility, that okay, the technical knowledge is there and you want to evolve. So these are the guys who basically are the connecting tissue between the art and the developers. And the moment the art is coming inside a particular pipeline, the technical artists are the ones who basically merge these things together. They know the limitations which have been provided by the programmers, that okay, an X number of polygons are the only things that will go. That's the size limit of the texture, because everything has to be real time. And the animation cycles, what are the kind of cycles have to go into? Does it need to have the rig, or do we just use alembic, like, and use them, just remove that rig and just paste it as alembics and import it inside and make the build. So making builds also is the technical artist who can understand that part. So that role is very important, and people who can understand both the sides of it, I think it's a fantastic role, position to be in.
There are two questions that students interested in gaming, but a bit intimidated also keep asking me. It's one, can I be a game designer, game artist, or working in a game industry without any coding skill? And the other one is the opposite. What if I don't know how to sketch? You know, that's the two opposites, and this question keeps coming. What is your view on that?
Okay, so see, game designers, the theory behind them are, yes, you have to be creative, but everybody has got ideas. Like, you know, you and me can think. So everybody are game designers in my mind. Like, it's just that we don't apply ourselves to that particular subject in a deeper manner. So if you want to get deeper into that subject, yes, you need to be on both the sides as well. You need to figure out what are the challenges, what the artist would be coming along, and what are the limitations, what the game programmers would be setting up. So you might be thinking on that level, but somewhere down the line, when all three departments are joining hands, there has to be some kind of a tweaks that the game designer will have to compromise somewhere or the other. Or if the developers and the artists say that, hey, you know what, go berserk and we'll figure it out, it's a different story altogether. You know, and just to answer your, do I need to know sketching? Hell no. I mean, I don't know sketching. I've been an artist. I'm being a technical artist throughout my 25 years of my career. So if your communication skills are right, even if a crooked line, if you draw and communicate it well enough, I think your idea is sold. That's what I believe in.
All right, I think I agree with that. It comes back to what we are discussing. Being a good observer, being a good problem solver and communicating well, yes, is much more important. That's the prerequisite for this kind of career. So, you're right. One more question that I keep hearing from students is, okay, which software should I learn? This school is offering this software, that school is offering another one. What is the best for the industry? So how to answer to that?
That's a tricky question, Yan, because what happens is, like, every institution will have their own set of guidelines and their whole sort of curriculum that they offer. And it basically drives down to an individual, I would say. I mean, I have a very different insight on this subject. Like, we can do it offline, but just to give a holistic picture from a student standpoint, I would strongly suggest from say developers who are there. I'm pretty sure that, like, none of the engineering colleges will dive into Unreal Game Engine. It's more of an aptitude towards learning that. So if you learn that, your basics have been covered. Probably C and C++ has been covered from an engineering background. I think you should just dive into much more deeper. And as I said, like, the desire to learn more, which
right.
will get you into the industry. So it's nothing else but your engineering thought process, the logics if you have, and if you keep on practicing on these visual scripting kind of engines, and hone your skills over a period of time, and that is where the skill set would be developed. From an artistic standpoint, I would say that yes, Max, Maya, I mean, unfortunately, the industry trends have been becoming that. But yeah, if you want to learn it free of cost, get on Blender. It's free, open source, and Blender can give you the results what these both the softwares can give you and more.
Yeah.
And it's free. Like, so any student, anybody can just download and start working on it. Other than that, from an art standpoint, I would say that yes, you need to have some skill sets between the maximum, because the trend is there. Every company, if you try to apply, will need those expertise. So obviously, yes, you have to be little bit of comfortable on these tools. Be it like not an expert, you become an expert over a period of time, but you need to learn the basics at least, which the institutions are already teaching. I feel what you do, and when you press this button, this will happen. Like, but other than that, how to apply it to that real world, how to apply it to, I mean, a modeler. If you become a modeler, there are two set of modeling things, as you pointed out earlier. The rendering might take like say 20 hours, but in real time world, you need to have it at a snap of a finger. So the modeler has to be then, you know, very thoughtful where his application of that model is going to happen. If he's basically into the VFX/animation industry, then it's not a major thing, because the rest of the departments take care of that model, and you know, it gets done. But if you are in a game industry, then yes, your model, the way it has been modeled also is being taken into consideration. If a polygon is being has to be an n-gon, you know, there are these lot of five-sided stuff is not required. Lot of rules and regulations are applied on a model itself, and that is how an efficient game is being developed eventually. So it's a combination of all these various different softwares, tools, and everything.
There is a skill that I find very useful in that case is to learn how to learn, you know, because as you say, the software keeps evolving. It's very, very difficult to keep a track. And I noticed that when you are working on a particular project, if you know exactly what you are looking for, you can find nowadays with internet the solution to almost any problem within minutes, you know. And once you have this gymnastic in place, it becomes very, very quick to build something very strong based on the experience of the other. That's an advice that I keep giving to the students. I say, as you say, learn the fundamentals of a 3D software, of a sculpting software, or whatever, but then be ready to extend your knowledge with the help of internet that is available to all of us.
Exactly. Institutions will take you to a certain level. You know, they will teach you the basics and they will hone your skill set from a 360-degree standpoint. But beyond that is an individual who has to then take on that knowledge which has been given and enhance it using the internet, which is already there. Like, you know, so then you focus on something and then keep on building that skill set over a period of time.
Correct. One last question for you, Anukul. What is the key ingredient to a successful gaming career?
I mean, I answered it some time back. You need to do research. You need to practice a lot, and you need to be very, very much, having the aptitude to learn new things. I mean, these are the three ingredients I have been focusing upon. That yes, that gives you the research, gives you the knowledge to know what it is. The practice, whatever you have done in the research, you then apply it and keep on practicing it till the time you know that yes, this is the best thing that you have done, and that will get you inside any of the companies which will just offer you jobs, like, you know, very easily. And then once you join the company, don't let that hunger die. Like, you know, just because you got a job, that does not mean that you need to just be sitting there and hatching eggs on the seats. Like, you know, you need to actually go ahead and start learning new things.
That's true. I fully agree. I think you never stop learning. It's not at the end of your training that you know everything. I think generally in the design, people keep learning till their last day of work, actually. And it's also the beauty of this industry. We are always learners there.
Oh, definitely, yes. Definitely, yes.
Great. Thanks a lot, Anukul. That was very, very insightful. Thank you very much for all this information. I hope the audience also learned a lot from you. And thank you, Maumita, for giving us the opportunity to have this discussion. And I leave the stage back to you now.
Mr. Yan, this was absolutely fascinating, because there are so many takeaways. I followed your advice. I was a good listener. So there are so many takeaways in this. And the number one being of an interest area to me, because I am an expert in educational psychology. And it is indeed, it is about as much positivity and as much aspirational human behavior that you can get in through psychology and through humanities applications, that you get the best gaming experiences. So that was a big takeaway. And a very relevant question answered is to what do the typical non-artist, non-engineering people do in this area? And there is so much to be done, as Anukul has pointed out. And what is another takeaway is that how to learn. Basically, we have in Indian culture, a reference of the Gandhamadhan Parbat. Hanuman brings the entire thing. So you have to be able to get the Sanjeevani out of that, that absolute knowledge treasure that is available to you there. And it has roles for everybody, from commerce background to arts background to humanities background to management backgrounds. And that is the great thing. The roles are so diverse. All these are needed to come together in the perfect synergy, for the perfect gaming experience, which is monetizable and which is a very, very lucrative and profitable and satisfying business idea as well.
Absolutely.
So it was absolutely fascinating, and we should be able to hear you more in further sessions. Unfortunately, we had only time for this much, as the speakers for the next sessions have joined in. So a very, very, very big thank you to both of you for providing us with these very valuable guidelines to work on. All of us, actually, not just the gamers and the students, but even people like us who are learning every day, indeed. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
I want to say hi to Aditya, who is students of Ecole-Intuit-Lab, ex-alumni now, and Vishal also, who is a teacher at Ecole-Intuit-Lab. So both of them, they are going to rule the next session now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. And without further ado, I introduce the next set of speakers. Mr. Vishal Kawji started breaking barriers and records long before he even graduated from the Asian Institute of Gaming and Animation. His soulful essence comes from having an overall training experience of more than 13 years in India's topmost animation institutes. Most of his students have gone off to work with distinguished companies. His energy, dedication, and stubbornness are all the strengths he used to help those around. He has shone bright and always left a positive, lasting mark on the projects, teams, and companies he has worked with. A few of them being on the set of Mangal Pandey, the famous Bollywood movie, as a modeling artist. He has worked on iRacing, one of the most hyper-realistic games created, as a senior asset artist. He went on to work at Hare Maps as a senior map modeler, and then lastly worked on superhero movies with the Moving Pictures Company. What a resume, sir. we are very sure to have a very interesting discussion. Mr. Aaditya Panchal has created his own character concepts for games and movies. He's an artist since childhood, and he had a passion of becoming a character designer. He has a keen interest in character designing right from the 9th standard. His creativity in writing as well as in designing has helped him do that. And he thinks about his characters, about their stories, and he can do that without the stress and thinking about time. It's a very, very creative fruition of a lot of research and a lot of reflective thinking. And he has stepped into the world of designing with a passion. So the floor is all yours, and I will excuse myself from this second session. It would have been fascinating listening, but the problem is that we have some offline duties, so I have to now be in transit to college because I have an important meeting there. But it was very nice introducing you and being part of this beautiful circle. So thanks a lot for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maumita, for such a great opening as well as a good introduction. And hi Aditya, how are you? How's everything? Long time.
Everything's going good, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for all the viewers, so today we are just going to get into the hands-on experience, like how an artist or a game artist actually create things, which all softwares, and just a little bit about a demo kind of a thing where we'll be just getting into the software, touching base onto one career opportunities which are there. So we'll start up with a small presentation with where we'll just get into the agenda for the whole upcoming about an hour's time, what we are going to spend, and then we can start up with the demo. Aditya, anything you want to speak about?
No, sir, you can just go ahead with the previous.
All right, so I'll just share my screen so that we can just go into the presentation a little bit. I'll not take that much of time for the presentation. So career profiles in gaming. So whenever it comes to gaming, then there are a lot of things which so gaming as a career doesn't mean that you are going to do the whole game by yourself. It is being chopped down into different career opportunities. So each artist do his own set of things and own set of specializations what he has. So that is something what we'll be dealing with today. So number one out of it is concept art. Now concept art is what Aditya is going to show us today, how concept art is done and what all softwares are there and how he actually creates his own concepts. That is what we'll be starting up with today, followed by game artists. So now whenever it comes to 3D game artists, there are a couple of things what an artist does. It involves modeling, sculpting, texturing, also rigging and animation, but we'll be taking this into another set of slides, another set of things. So modeling and sculpting is basically whenever a concept. So let's say I have a game to design, I have all the ideas, I have all the planning what needs to be done. Now I'll just create the concepts out of it. Now concepts are, before getting into the actual technical part, which is more time consuming, we just do concepts where people understand or all the artists understands what exactly needs to be done. So all the artists will be on the same page with same art style, with similar kind of colors and look and feel to all the things what you'll be seeing in the game. So modeling, sculpting and texturing is one of the process which we'll be demonstrating as we move forward. Then there is animation. So animation is in a very simplest way, it's just giving motion and giving expressions to the characters, the backgrounds, the objects, whatever you interact with in a game. So we'll be just having a hands-on about how animators do animation and how animation is. Will be followed up with rigging. So rigging is something before animation we do a little bit of so whenever you see any puppet, how there are strings attached to his hands, his face. So similar to that, we do rigging. By the use of rig, an animator can animate a character. So that is what also we'll be getting into, rigging and animation. Then comes UI UX artist, all the buttons, all the interactable elements what you see on the game viewport, your health bar, the life, pause, start, all of these buttons, they come in a category of UI UX. So we'll be also speaking about this into today's session. VFX artist, this is something to do with effects. So how effects are made, how do you create all the effects what you see in the game. It may be a force field, a superpower or smoke, all of that we'll be speaking about in this VFX category. Then we'll be getting into the actual game building technique, the more technical part, followed with the software like Unreal Engine, where we'll be getting into look development, level designing and packaging. So how look development of the whole game is done, how do you do a simple level design, and then how do you package the game so that everyone can play it, you can launch it on Steam or maybe any of the web portals. Then these are a little bit of technical and theoretical part when it comes to more towards the management part, like what does a technical artist do, and followed by three main profiles: art manager, lead artist and art director. So how all of these things are going to happen, that is what we'll be speaking about. And then we'll be summing up with the whole demo session. So this is what we have for today's session consolidated. I would move the stage over to Aditya and we could start talking about concept art. So Aditya, it's all yours. You can start.
Vishal sir. So hi guys, I'm Aditya, and as ma'am mentioned earlier, that I wanted to be character designer since ninth standard. So before that, I wanted to get into designing into like vehicles, but yeah, I wanted to get into designing. So I started designing character. I just used to just design the costumes and just let it be. I didn't know, I had to, write about the character, the background, or what kind of superpower he'll have, or basic stuff that goes into, research and everything. I didn't used to do that. So once I stepped into, started learning, I got to know that there's a whole process behind it. So you need to get your themes first, like what kind of character or maybe what kind of problem design. So yeah, that goes into concept art. So there are different kinds of concept artists out there. Like there are character designers, there are environment designers. Then if there's something like, let's say you want to design a speaker or something like that, there are prop artists. And then there are vehicle and transportation concept artists, and definitely weapon designers. So there are a lot of concept artists out there. So I just share my screen. Maybe is that okay, Vishal sir? I'll just share my screen and start.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yes, as I told you, there has to be a theme that you need to either that is given to you by your maybe your client or maybe art directors or anyone who's making the theme. So first of all, you'll be getting your themes and everything written down. So for now, for the presentation, I've just jotted out a few things that I want to try it out in front of you. So yeah, I'll be designing a visual stuff, and it has to be wooden. It has a little bit of skulls and show that brutality of the wizard and the evilness of the wizard. Then there has to be a magical element, let's say jewel or something like that, and it has to be a tribal. So he lives in a jungle and does all the magic and stuff. So yeah, that I've jotted down for the theme. So first of all, before we start, I again want to share a few things. So before you start your exploration or your drawing, you should know your theme, what kind of design or what thing the client wants. So you need to know it properly, and after that you need to set some constraints. So let's say the client has just given you to design a visual stuff. So let's say I'll just jot down a few things and I'll show the client, does this fit in your game or wherever the concept art is being used. So yeah, we need to set constraints as well. After that, research, definitely. Research is something, it's very important when you're starting with the concept art, because you need to know exactly what you're making with proper features and everything. Let's say I'm designing a boat, so I'll be just going over let's say, yeah, you can just go on Google or anything like that, and just Pinterest or whatever you want to use your search engine for. And so let's say these kind of thing I want to draw. So how the branches and everything are going, how organic the stuff has to be. So I'll just download a few images and create my own visual library. Visual library is that a friend of yours when you're starting with your concept art. So yeah, download as much as images and as much as references you want. Yeah, you can even get into movies, and you can just watch different videos and everything where they explain how the stuff works or how they make everything. Just go into detail and do your research online, and you can just have proper idea of what you're designing. So yeah, design research is really important. after that, finally you get to start drawing after all these document stuff and brainstorming. You can finally get into drawing. So obviously, when I started off, my perception about concept art was I need to make a proper illustrated, a proper detailed drawing, but no, I was wrong. So I used to just get into proper fine line works and everything for concept art. But no, it's nothing like that. You just need to just scribble down your ideas as much as you can. You can just make like more than 50 or however how many variations you want. So yeah, you can start with your drawing for exploration. You can just scribble it down. Like, I'll just show you. So let's say I'm making a staff right now. So maybe I'll just so let's say there's a head right now with a jewel in it. Okay. As I mentioned before, there has to be some skulls. So I'll just get the position and everything. So one thing I want to there's a step where I was interning with Ubisoft. They taught me a small thing, but it definitely adds up to your artwork. So keep this in mind that you have to keep elements that are big, medium, and small to add the contrast and everything. Okay. So once that is done, you just start scribbling with your ideation. So okay, let's see, I'm adding a few more small skulls. Okay, and then again with the handle, the end part of the star, and maybe let's say I want to add a few accessories, maybe something like that. You just add it, and obviously the stuff is wooden, so you might get hurt or something like that. So you can just add a few cloth or maybe anything that helps the wizard to hold it properly, because definitely this is going to be a heavy thing because this cousin. So yeah, you just need to get into depth of what kind of stuff it is, and just think, if you were holding that stuff, would you be comfortable holding it? If not, then what should you add or remove while you're holding that thing? So that helps with your design. So yeah, it just has to be scribbles. Maybe I'll just add a few eyes to show yes, these eyes. And just for exercise, maybe I'll just do this. And for magical stuff, you can definitely, as Vishal sir told you, there are VFX artists and they add the effects and everything in the game. So even you can do it with your with the. So yeah, I'll just start with my exploration stuff while we discuss about it. Vishal sir, you can go ahead with your presentation. Okay.
Thank you, Aditya, for such a wonderful demo, and thank you for sharing also the insights. So guys, once we are done with the concepts, so once the concepts are done, so these concepts will give us an actual idea about what is expected. So right now, if you see these two concepts, artist, anyone could make out, okay, this is what the idea of the whole art is. Like, if I want to make this kind of an element, then this is specific how it is. So either you share images, either you do sketches, either you draw it on a piece of paper, but the main concept is to share the idea what exactly the artist want. Now once these illustrations are done, once these concepts are done, the actual technical work starts. So now the first important question is what it takes to create a game, right? So fine, we have done with the concepts, where we have the idea. Now what are all these technical elements and what are those softwares where we actually make games? So I'll just share my screen, Aditya, if you don't mind. Hello. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. and everything is perfect. Okay, so whenever you want to create any games as such, let's say if I thought of creating a game, then what are those technical softwares and what are those things what we use? So if you can see on my screen, these are few of the softwares which are, these are generic softwares. Now apart from them, there are a lot of different more softwares, but then 3ds Max is one of the software, Maya is one of the software, ZBrush is one of the software, Substance is one of the software, Marmoset toolbag, Photoshop, and gaming engines. Now game engines usually we use two if you want to get into this field, and if you don't have access to if you don't want to get into those complicated things. But to start with, there are two good engines to start up with. One is Unity and one is Unreal. So today we'll be also talking about Unreal, and we'll just be seeing what happens in Unreal. So let's say I have a concept and my concept is created. So the first stage which involves is called as modeling and texturing. So modeling is basically, let's say if I have any so this is like a 3D Max software which is there, and this is a 3D package where you can visualize things in 3D as well, you can create them. So just to be very fast, if I want to create something, I could just take a object, and this I can visualize in 3D, and I can go ahead and start modifying it to whatever ways I want. So let's say if I want to quickly create something out of it, I'll just go ahead and start adding few things. I can just start shaping them. Okay. Now, just by using this, what all you can create. So just to give you a little gist, I have a small object created over here. Now, if you see this object, it is like a small wooden box which is there. It has, so the way it was created is the same way, just by taking these small points, adjusting them, and after that creating this whole thing. Now each asset creation is one of the skill. So the artist, we call it as a 3D game artist, who are actually going to do all of these assets. Okay, so I'll also share you some of the images which I have taken for creating this asset. So these were the references which were given to me, and looking at these images, aligning them, we have created this. So now this is like a structure which needs to be created first. Now we use 3ds Max as a software for this. So this is one of it. Likewise, there are also modular structures what we create. So let's say if I have, I can show you one more example. So let's say I have to create this whole house. So what I'll do is I'll create a dummy out of it. And then I'll first create all the required things like a wall, a window, then these small planks over here. Now I can just share all of those also which I have created. So once I get the measurements right, once I get the size right, then I could just go ahead and start creating these modular assets. So now these are all the modular pieces what I have created. So these are all the planks. These are all the things. So it is something like a Lego thing what I'm creating. Once these are created, then I'm just going to take them, put them in the engine and start populating them there. So we'll also see how I've populated this in Unreal and how everything was made. Now, once this is done, this is depending on the illustration, whatever, or depending upon the image references, what is being shared to you. You'll be using another pack where you can do coloring of these assets. One of it is Substance. So I'll just quickly show you Substance Designer. So this is one of the package where we do a lot of texturing. Also, there is one more software which is called as Painter. That's also there for doing advanced things. So this is how I have created the texture. So now if you see, all the textures have been modularly created. So now the texture over here, if you see, I'll just zoom in. If you see all of these textures, it's been developed over here. So these are all the wood what I have created. So this is wood, one more wood. Then there are these planks. These are the wooden planks which I have developed. So all of these textures would be modularly created. So I can use these textures in the engine, and this is how they look like. So I have the roof texture. So this is more like a slate roof. So I just create this. So all of these textures are done into these softwares. And these softwares are specifically node based. So looking right now at it, it doesn't, so this is like a smaller visual coding kind of a scenario where you take all of these small modular elements, join them together and start creating things the way you want. So these are, once you start understanding, once you start learning, this is not that difficult. It is it's supposed to be the most simplest thing what you can do. So this is what a texturing artist does. Now, this is modeling and this is texturing. We also have something called as a digital sculpting. So if there are challenges, like let's say if in this kind of a scenario, if this case is there and there is this cloth thing or maybe a leather thing with a lot of organic details on it, maybe there are stitches over here and there are small wrinkles and all. So all of this thing, there is a limit to these softwares where they can push. So for such kind of a thing, we have these sculpting tools. One of it is ZBrush. What we can do is we can just really go into the details and start sculpting stitches also. This is more like the clay sculpting what you do. You have brushes, and if I just put the stitch, see, I can just go ahead and start putting the stitches the way I want. So this is called as digital sculpting. And in this sculpting, you could not only create objects like this, but also the total character illustrations also could be done using ZBrush. So this is ZBrush, this is sculpting. This is where, so when you get the asset, you will first model it, you will go into the ZBrush, do the high level of detailing on it, and then you will get into Substance where you will start texturing it. So these are the combinations of things which you really need to have when you want, if you want to become a 3D game artist. Now, followed by, there is something called as rigging and animation. So now what is rigging and what is animation? Let's speak about that. So let's say if I go in 3ds Max back again, and I'll just reset this. Now I have a small character, which is, I've kept it for the demo. I'll just quickly open it. So this is one of the character. Let's say if you develop this character in 3D, you got all the texturing, all the sculpting and everything done. This is how the character would look like. So now what we do is, now if I want to give any animation to this character, so now if you see this is kind of a racer guy who has, so there was a concept of it, then there was a modeling done on it, then there was a texturing done on it. And after that, if I want to animate it, as I told you, like what we do with the puppets, we put actual bones in the character. Now it's not only we do it with the characters, but also props, also as simple as door. So this is where I can use these bones and then I can start animating him. So the way I want to animate him, there is a time frame over here which I could utilize. I could just quickly go ahead and switch on the auto key options. And let's say if I want to animate him, I can start up. So this is like a very time consuming thing, but I'm just giving you as a demo. So I'm not getting more into details like what needs to be kept in mind and how things work. But so this is how, if I just animate it like this, then you'll start getting the animation. So this is what animations are. Okay. Now let's say if I want to show you how animators could actually animate things. So I also have some demo animations which I'll quickly share with you. So let's say I want to make a run animation of it. So I can just go ahead. I've just created these animations and kept. So like a walk animation. So just by using these small keys and using these things, just on the bones, we have gathered this animation. So now if you see, this is a walk animation which is there. So animators are the guys who actually animate this, and riggers are the guys who actually rig it. So rigging is actually giving controllers, and animation is when you take these controllers and apply whichever motion you want to on the character. So just take the time frame to 35. Now if I say okay and I go back and I play, and this is how it plays. Okay, so for games, what we do is we make these small chunk of animations. Like walk is there. I could similarly take run. Let's take this to 20. Okay, go back and play. And you can see this guy will start running. So these small set of animations are usually made, and then in the game, these things are repeated. So whenever you hold up arrow, the run animation will trigger, and the character will start moving forward. So this is how it works. Similarly, let's say if I want to make him jump, I could just go ahead and import the jump animation. To this and so this is what the jump is. And this is what will jump. Okay, now there are a lot of things which are also used nowadays. There is something called as motion capture. You might have seen people wearing a suit, and whatever they're acting, everything is getting imitated inside the computer. So there is a lot of technology which has evolved, but then traditional animations also do exist. When you get these animations from motion capture or face capture, animator has to sit down and clean it up thoroughly. So all of those things are also there, but being an artist, if you want to get into animation and rigging, that is also one of the very important part of gaming, and there are a lot of artists who are actually doing this work also. So these are few of the important things which are really important when it comes to any game building. Now apart from this, there are also few more things, which is one of it is UI UX. So this is more to do with your interactable elements of the game. Let's say your character, the objects, your level, the props. But then there is also one of the most important part, which is called as UI UX. So now, what is basically UI UX is creating those buttons, creating those close icons and everything. So that falls into UI UX. Now, which softwares do you mostly use? We use a software called as Photoshop. There is Illustrator, there is Figma. There are so many different packages which are used. But then these softwares, we usually create these buttons, the frames, whatever needs to be done from the interactable element is all into UI UX. Where to put the close button, where to keep the open button, that is all part of becoming a UI UX designer. So I'll just quickly go into new and just get up a small scene over here. Let's get to this. And now if I check, I could just quickly start making the buttons I want. So let's say if I want to have a round corner button. So these are the tools usually you will find. So I'll just go ahead and let's create this with a rounded corner. So I'll say maybe 5 and just click and drag. So I'll get this rounded corner option over here. And I can fill in the color I want, or maybe I want it to be more rounded, so I'll say 20 and click and drag. So let's say if I want to just really quickly change the color of this button, I can just go ahead and change it to maybe something like light blue. And I want to add some styles on it, so I can just quickly go into the style panel and start adding styles over here. So these are all the styles what we have. Any button style I want to add, I can just go and quickly start adding. So this is nature. These are all the styles which are pre-created, and you can also create your own styles. So for example, let's say I want something like a bevel effect on this. All these effects and everything could be added over here. So I'll just go ahead quickly here. Just delete this layer, create a new layer, add a new button, drag. Let's say I want to write like a start button over here. Let's take it here. And let's say I want to give him some effects. So I have this whole effects library which I could use. And let's say I want emboss and bevel. So I start getting this beveled effect in it. I want something like a drop shadow to be there. So I can just go for a drop shadow. Maybe the distance I want to calculate, change, spread I want to change, the size of the thing I want to change. So all of these things could be modified. And what UI UX artist does is he not only creates the buttons and all the icons, but also he puts a thought where to exactly place them. So where should be the close button, what should be the color, so that anyone who's interacting with the game, it is but obvious, something like that. So if I want to put some menus, where exactly those menus should be, whether it should be cluttered and my game view is not visible. So all of that is taken care by these UI UX artists. Then finally comes is the VFX artist. Now, before getting into VFX artist, we will quickly get into the game engines, so that VFX is the part of game engines. So we'll just quickly get into the game engine part. As I told you, we have created this small house with the modular pieces. Now, what we will do is we'll take all of these modular pieces and take them into the game engine, texture them and take them into the game engine. So this is how a game engine really looks like. This is a game engine. This is Unreal. This is where most of the games like Fortnite has been built, and still there are more upcoming games which are highly built on Unreal. So in this is how it looks like. These are the buttons and these are the things what you are really supposed to do. It's more of a visual tool rather than just coding and coding. So most of the people who thinks games is where you need to do only coding, it's not like that. Coding is one of the part, but then as the technology is going forward, they are making it more and more simpler nowadays. So so this is what I built finally. So if you can see this hut, so I just added this house along with some environment in it, and finally this is what the whole thing looks like. So this is a level designer job. So what he'll do is he'll take all these small pieces which are there. So I can just quickly go and get into a new level and just show it to you how this can be done. So this is an empty level which is there. So the game levels, the games what you are playing, your level is like this when it is started. So let's say I want to have a sky in here. So I'll just go and pick out a sky. So I get this sky, and suddenly see I got clouds, the atmosphere, the sun, everything. Now in this, let's say I want something to control this sun. Fine, so I just create a sun over here. So this is a directional light which I'm taking, and I'll just connect both of them together. So let's go ahead and connect it, and suddenly you will see the atmosphere has changed. Now depending upon how or what is the direction of this, the whole atmosphere, the placement of the sun will start changing. So it just needs to refresh, and this is what it looks like. Suddenly, let's say I want the game to be in the night environment. So I'll just go ahead and make it night. And now if you see, suddenly you start getting a night scene with all the clouds and everything. So this is just how simple it is. So whoever feels like making games is a very complicated job, yes, it is. But then you just need to know how you control your tools and how you manage to place things ahead. So this is how I get the atmosphere and everything. Now by using these modular pieces, so these are all the modular pieces which I have created. So these are all the modular pieces what I have. I could start building things. So let's say I want this plank base. I got this plank base which is there. I just change the light so that I am able to visualize this. This is how the plank look like. Then I want, let's say, a door. So I've just got this door. So reset this. That's the door. Now in the door also, I can also control the frame and everything. So I'll just show it to you. It's over. So I'll take a window for an instance. So I have this window which I have created, and I could control what I want in this window and what I don't want in this window. So let's say I want the window frame to be there or not. I want the glass to be there or not. I want the glass bottom to be there, the bottom glass to be there or not. So all of these controls, you can add it to the model what you have created. And this is all done through coding, but then coding is also in a very visual format when it comes to Unreal. So if you see this is what the coding I have done to achieve this kind of a scenario. So this is the coding what I've done. So this is how the code look like. This is called as visual coding. It is called as blueprint. So it is not like you have to sit down and write a bunch of code, but you have to take all of these small modular things, connect them together and create a code. So Unreal is basically coding in a language on the background. So that effort is not from you. and Unreal is there for that. This is what the whole environment looks like. So the visual elements, I'll align them here. And what should happen with these visual elements is all in this code which I have created. So this is what is the work of level designers. So what they do is they place these things and create the whole level. So if you can see in the level which I have created, it looks something like this. And so all the placements, aligning of things will be done by the level designer. So if I just go up, this is what the whole level looks like. So there are trees and there are these grass, there is this water. So all of this, where to place, how the character will move, it is all a part of level designer. Now, once the level designer is done with his work, then comes the work of look development. So now look development is how the lighting will be, whether you want a morning scene or an evening scene or an afternoon scene, and depending upon that, how the fog would be. All of this will be done with the help of look development. So I'll just quickly go ahead and let's say I want the fog to be controlled. So I want it to be more dense. So I'll just go ahead and increase the fog density to maybe 0.5. So here you can see now the environment is more foggy and things are looking really hazy. It looks like a winter scenario now. So this is what the look development guys do. I can also change the fog. Maybe I want something like this. It looks like a nuclear fallout kind of a scenario where there is a nuclear dust in the environment. So all of this could be controlled and all of this could be done by using these look development tools. Now let's say if I don't want the fog at all, so I can just off it. I want to change the environment. Let's say I want it to have afternoon scene maybe. So or maybe a night scene. So let's make it into a night. And I could quickly go into the sky and refresh this. So now I can see it's nice. I could just go ahead and take the intensity of this directional light. So now this is what it looks like. I can also make the whole scenario look more dim or maybe more intense depending upon how I want it. So I just keep it like this. Go for the sky and refresh this once, and now I can see a nice environment over here. Now, similarly, if I want things to be more dimmer, I could just add in something called as post process. I could actually control the now it'll start looking more and more. Okay. And now I can just start placing lights. So let's say I want something like a a bulb light placed over here. I could just quickly go ahead and put a light. And see how the whole mood of the whole scenario is changing. I can change the color. Let's say I want it to be a little yellowish orange. And this is how it looks like. Now if I go here and now check the whole scene, it looks like a night scene. Okay, when we started, it was complete day. So this is what the look development guys usually do. Now I can also get the fog. And this is how it look like. And let's say I'll just make it a little darker and let's keep it like cold winter scene. And now you can see this is how it looks like. Okay, I'll just go into the game mode. So this is how the game mode would look like. So this is what is the work of level designers and look development people. So this is most important because all the efforts from the guys who are done the illustrations, the concepts, the modeling artists, the texturing artists, if look development is not done accurate, then there won't be any justice given to all the efforts put by all the other teammates. Okay. Now, similarly, once this is done, let's say I want to package this game. So before even getting into packaging, we'll get into effects. So effects is something like whenever I want to create any effect. So let's say in this case, I'll just open up another file where I have kept all the effects. So any effects you want to create, those effects can also be created. And there are different people actually who creates these kind of effects. So you see all of these effects are created by different artists. And to create them, there is a bunch of blueprint, bunch of codes and visual elements which you need to get into. So just to give you a demo about, if I want to create something like this, then this is what all the blueprint would look like. So these are small tools connected all together, and they form the effect which I want to. Okay, but looking at the whole scenario, it looks like, how can I learn all of this? But then once you know the basics, once you know what this one pin does, then it is very simpler for anyone to create these kind of effects. So if I go into the viewport, this is what it looks like. So this is the thing what is being created. I can use it wherever I want. So all the forces and all the effects what you see in the game, they are all done using these kind of tools and techniques. So if you see this is all of it. I can just show you a few more which we have done. So I'll just go into this one. And so this is like magical tornadoes. See the way they have built. So all of these effects, I can show you a few more. So if I play this, so you can see this all of these fields. So when anyone summons any power or something, this is what we can use. So these are all the effects, the laser effects, blast effects. So all the powers what you see in the game, they're done like this. Now there are actually particles. So there is something called as particle system. So if I select this, I go into the particle system. So this is what the particle system is. It is again a visual element where you could, specifically control each and everything. So let's say if I don't want those trails, if I don't want, I just want the fire, I can keep the fire, I can change the color, I can change all the possible things into this. So this is what the work of FX artist is. In fact, something like, I'll show you one interactive effect also, which is fireworks. So this is, so if I just play this, and so if I press 2, it will throw a firework. And so all of these fireworks are all done using Unreal. So in the game, whenever you see all of this is done by, so I can just keep on pressing the buttons and I can start getting more and more fireworks. So all of this could be done using Unreal. And this work is of FX artist. So all the things what you create in the 3D softwares like Photoshop, 3ds Max, animate them, you need to bring them to this engine. And from here is where you build all the interactivity, you build all the things by using blueprints, by using all these visual tools. So just to be very simple, let's say if I want to add a player, or if I want to have a third-person player over here where I can just go and walk inside it, I just close all the softwares because it's making my PC a little heavy. So I'll just second close them. Also, there is one more loop development tool which is called as Marmoset. So any objects you make, you can, the chest which we had made in 3ds Max, after texturing and after doing loop development, this is how it looks like. So once it is approved over here, once you feel like it looks good, then it is ready to take in the game engine. So from here, we'll send the whole asset into the games. So this is also one of the very good tool which is used widely in the industry. So let's say if I have this whole thing created and I want to create a player over here where I can walk inside this. So I can just quickly go ahead and get a third-person player. So now it's up to you what you want, a third person or maybe a first person or a vehicle. So all of this is there. So I'll just go for a third-person pack over here. I'll just add it and it'll just quickly get added. And now I could just change few things here and there. And this should do it. I can take the player start. Let's say I want the player to start from here, from the top. I hope it collides, and let's play. So if I play this now, and here is the player, and I can walk. So here is where I quickly created a game, and it's such a simpler work. Now I can just, as a player, I can walk, I can go to whichever place I want. So here is grass, there's the water. I can in fact go inside the water also now. I have not added anything, but you can also add swim and all those mechanisms. So right now it's just going inside. And it's very hard to go out now. So this is what the whole game building process has. The final process is to pack it and to create it so that people can play it. You can share it to your friends. That's also one of a thing which is there in Unreal itself. So if I go to file, I go to so there is right now I have not activated those options, but there is packaging options over here where you can just package the game, it saves it, and then it creates an exe out of it, which you can later send it to your friends and you can start playing. So if I just go into the other version, I can just go here, package. Now whichever platform you want to package it for, it's all over here. So if you want to go in for Android, you want to go in for HoloLens, iOS, Linux, Lumen. So it supports most of the formats which are normally there in the industry right now. It's just one click away. So if I just go ahead and say Windows 64-bit, it'll just ask me where to save and I could just package it. But then after packaging, there is a lot what a software developer does to actually put it online or to make it shareable. But from the technical part, this is what the whole scenario of games is. I think so. This has given all the audience a little bit about which softwares, how everything is handled, and which softwares are specifically used. Now each of them are processes, and each of these processes there are specific people and specific artists who have done specialized training for this, which obviously we do at Faculty-Ecole-Intuit-Lab, and you choose to become one out of it. All the things can't be managed by a single person, but then once you work in the industry for a couple of years, then you start developing more skills. You start diversifying not only one process but most of the process, and rest of the processes are also cleared with you. Now there are people who we call as technical artists. Now these guys are specifically those who have knowledge about all the softwares, all the problems or all the dead ends where the artist could go. So recommendation of which software to use. If you are creating a first-person view game or a first-person game, then which would be the recommended engine you should work on? Or maybe you're making a top-down strategy game, then which should be the engine used, which all software should be used. If you want a faster asset making process, but not in that detail, then which softwares to use. So all of these things are done by technical artists. They also develop pipelines, like how an asset is built, where it is saved, what is the name of it, and how all of these artists working on one game can merge together into one place. That is all the work of technical artists. Now followed by, there are three more important people who are into the system. Now those are art managers, lead artists, and art directors. So we'll start with art manager. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of art in this, a lot of technology involved in it. The major hiccup is how to manage all of this. Imagine an artist, if he is working on a different software and that art needs to come and merge into a different software. So where to store it, how to manage this workflow will be decided by this art manager. Leads, once you do a specific field, once you do a more specialized thing into a field, you get a working experience, and then you are set to be leading a bunch of people. So your goal will be the concept. The game developers, the game directors will give you a set of things to do, and you will get a bunch of artists with you. Your role will be guiding them, giving them training and make sure that the deliveries from them are coming onto one portal, and that one portal is being shared by you. So that's what the main lead artists do. Now these lead artists are in specific fields. So there is a lead for UI UX, there is a lead for modeling, texturing, there is a lead for animation and rigging. So these are, once you start getting more experience into this field, then you can start becoming a lead into this. Art directors, on the other hand, is again, those are the directors of the art. Now the major important part is the art, the principles of art still remains the same, but when you are not applying it on physical mediums, but you are applying it on digital mediums, where you have a lot flexibility. Like if you can, if you see this specific scene which I have made in a game, a player won't be only looking at it from one angle as a painting, but he'll be moving around the whole house, right? So how you can, make it feel or make it beautiful from all the sides is what the main requirement of this field is. So art director in here will direct the whole scenario. Like if a level has been built, then his job is to understand the whole pathway where the player is going to go and direct the whole art accordingly. So this is what the art director does. Now he shouldn't be only having the knowledge of how artistically things look beautiful, or how artistically which are the principle if you are making any designs, but also to understand the player mentality, as well as this technology where you can move around and look at one object from all the possible angles. So his work is also to understand the limitations of it. That means now if you make a game and you make it so heavy and it looks beautiful, but no one is able to play it, people won't buy it. Same what happened with Cyberpunk. That's the biggest example. The game was beautiful, the direction was beautiful, all the modeling assets, everything was beautiful. The problem what happened was it was not able to be played, and most of the people can't afford. So that game was again revamped, and then you saw what all happened with Cyberpunk. So to make it lighter so that everyone could play it, to make it beautiful so that everyone likes it, that's what the main job of art director would be. So this is to sum up with all the things what are there in this industry, and I hope I was able to give you the exact picture and exact job roles which are there. So that's it from my side. Aditya, I hope it was.
Yeah, everything was on point. The students or the participants, goes into making a small or even a big game. It takes a lot of efforts and a lot of research, a lot of hard work.
Yes.
And when you're playing games, sometimes you subconsciously don't observe the details that artist puts in the design props or the house that you've made right now. So the player will just go around it without even noticing, because that thing makes it realistic, and they just feel that they are inside the game while they're playing. You just subconsciously just don't see the details and everything.
Yes. So usually for a player, no, it is very simple to just go in an environment, not look at anything. But one mistake you do, there will be 100 videos on it. Okay, there is this one mistake which is made. So as Aditya also mentioned, it's not only cautious mind what we are more worried about, but also the subconscious mind. Like for being very simple, what is the scale of a tree? Right? I can keep it huge, but then again, the moment I keep it, all the player will start understanding now how beautiful the game is, how it looks, but then this small mistake of scaling would hamper the game, the whole game flow. So that's the most important details what we really need to think about.
Everything that you've told so far, that has to go hand in hand. Like, let's say, as you mentioned Cyberpunk, right? The game is beautiful, the visuals and everything is really amazing. The concept that they have made, storyline and everything like that, but a small mistake in coding, you know what it did to the whole game. So yeah, everything has to go in hand in hand. That's the key to proper successful story or maybe a proper game.
Yes. So any queries, anything? Are we taking any Q&As?
I just quickly share my screen again, and I'll show what the third version that I did right now.
Yeah.
Until then, if any participants wants to ask me questions regarding anything, like let it be concept or maybe anything that Vishal shared. So yeah, these are the three variations that I did for the staffing. So you can see every variation is somewhere different than the other one. This one is more focusing on the magical element. This is a little evilish or maybe the wrongdoings that the wizard has done, and this is somewhere balanced between the both. So yeah, as I've written it down, you can create as much as variations you want. And yeah, you need to close doors. Like let's say the director wants to go ahead with the stuff that is focusing more on the magical element than the evil thing. So you can just remove these two and just go ahead with designing different stuff, which is focusing more on magical elements. So yeah, you should create variations, but as well as you should know where to close your doors and start sorting. So yeah, that's it from my side. We shall say.
Yeah, perfect. So it's time to end the session. I feel it was informative and it gave you a good insight about things, right from the concept to the creation of the games. So that's it for today, guys. Bye bye. Have a nice time. Bye, Aditya.
Bye, sir. Have a nice day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Vishal sir and Aditya sir for this insightful session, and it was really amazing to have you guys here. Just on another news, I wanted to notify the audience here about our other events. Today from 5 to 7 p.m. we are having the finals of the BGMI and the Valorant live streams. I'm putting the link of the channel in the bio, in the chat, sorry. Please check it out. Please attend our stream and support the finalists. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for attending.